Promised. Sheriff Don Pezzetti is with us this morning. Sheriff Pezzetti, last week, first of all, or was it this week? I can't remember, but what prompted my call, Don, was I know your department very much involved with safety all year round, but particularly at this time of the year, one of the concerns is the snowmobile safety. And we have been hearing in the news and hearing from our friends, to me, and I could be wrong, maybe I'm just in a position to hear more of it, but snowmobile accidents and bad snowmobile accidents, and are there more, or are we just hearing more about them?
Well, we're getting more, and the ones we are getting are some, of course, they're fatal accidents and a lot of serious injury accidents. So for the first time, we have a state grant now for 1995 and 96 for snowmobile patrol. So we're out on the trails, and we're trying to do some good and to slow people down and make sure they have their permits and so on.
Okay, why do people get on a snowmobile and seem to think there are no... you and I both grew up with a little booklet that was called Rules of the Road that we had to read before we could get our driver's license. I get the impression, and I have seen this with strings of snowmobilers, it seems like they don't think there are any rules of the trails, but there are, aren't there?
Certainly. We have a list of items here that we have been writing tickets for, such as failure to register unregistered vehicles, trail permits, pursuing animals. There's a lot of violations that are being done out there, and of course we're in the business of stopping that. As I mentioned, this is the first year for our grant. We obtained around $4,000 from the state, which is a three-quarter, one-quarter match. The lucky thing is that a few years ago we went out and raised the money to buy our own sled and our rescue sled. This grant would have to incorporate that purchase in there, so we're lucky we had the equipment.
So you're going to be able to stretch this $4,000 a whole lot farther than you would if you had not already had the sled in your possession.
Right. I think we have an investment already of about over $6,000 in equipment, and this was donated through all the units of government within the county and some of the chambers of commerce and our search and rescue team. So we're blessed that we were able to have this on hand. Otherwise, I don't think the program would ever get off the ground.
You know, that's, again, it seems to me, I refer so many times to our area being somewhat unique and unusual in that people seem to step forward when help is needed, and that's kind of another example, isn't it?
It certainly is. We've had some real help from the Wakefield Chamber, Bessemer Chamber, Ironwood, and originally we were in the position just to bring people out of the woods after they're injured, and thankfully now we're out there, hopefully prior to the accidents. Snowmobiling, as you know, back in the 70s was real big. It kind of died out, and then it came back real strong in the late 80s and early 90s, and we're seeing it now, and it's a great sport, and I mean it's a tourist industry thing that we certainly are happy to have. But I'm seeing some things out there that concern me, such as some of the accidents and the reasons for them. We've had 29 fatal accidents since back in 90 through 94 that I was able to obtain information on. Out of those 29, 23 were alcohol related. So that tells you something, you know. This is a very powerful equipment, and if you go out there under the influence, you're going to be in some real problems, and it's something that you can't protect people from themselves, but we try to get out there early enough to get them off those sleds if they're intoxicated.
Okay, let's start at the top. Now, a couple of things that are violations that people are cited for. Two things you mentioned. Let's talk about registration.
Okay.
And then let's talk about trail permits. Registration first.
Okay, registration, you're required by law to have the same type of sticker you have on a boat. The law changed a year ago or 2 years ago, where you no longer have to put the numbers on the sled, as you recall, like boat numbers. Mm-hmm. Before, snowmobiles were required to have the 2 letters, and I believe it was 4 numbers for registration. Because of the design of the sleds and the cowling and that, a lot of owners didn't want to put them on because distracted from the way the machine looked. So they were able to get that changed. Law enforcement, as a rule, does not like that because there's really no way for us to identify this vehicle as it goes by us or if it's involved in something. We're hoping that's going to change. Trail permits, you're required to buy the $10 trail permit if you're going to ride any trail within the county or within the state. There's a number of places you can purchase these, Chamber of Commerce offices, Davies Motel, Chuck's Cycle Shop in Bessemer, Poor Joe's SOS office, her Secretary of State, Ironwood Amico, and I believe in the Lake Ogibic area there's a number of places you can also get it. We have been writing a number of tickets for this. The bond on these tickets is $50. So if you want to pay 10 or you want to pay 50, we'll leave it up to you, but you have to have that. Now, let's say that you're a cottage owner on Lake Ogibic and you just take your sled out to fish. You're not required to have that trail permit. But once you enter a trail, you're required to have it, and we'll be watching.
Okay, now, when people get their registration, and like you said, now this is something that's in their pocket and there's no way you can tell. Seems to me they could give them a star or something cute to put on their machine. It seems like a silly reason to hamper your efforts.
Right.
Just because they don't like the looks of it. But again, I can't say that for sure. But they're working on that, and there may be some symbol that they would be able to put on their machine, so you're going to know.
The DNR is watching this and kind of doing a study on it by contacting law enforcement agencies to see what effect this non-registration on these callings has made upon law enforcement. I have to believe that it's going to mean something because right now, like I say, there's just a small tag which gives a year of expiration, and without getting right up to the machine and running that small number, there's no way for us to know.
Okay, do people know that they need trail permits? That was when they register. Are they told you may be going into counties, or is it a statewide thing where you're going to need a trail permit?
That's statewide, so they're going to need that.
And they're told that then when they register their machine?
Most definitely, yes.
Okay. Don, we're going to take just a little bit of a break.
Okay.
Commercial message or two to pass along to our listeners, and then we'll be back. We're visiting with Sheriff Don Pezzetti.
Luther and Dollar for Hardee's new Big West Bacon Cheeseburger.
Hey, Luth, why are you dressed like a cowboy?
The Big West inspired me, dog.
Well, watch those spurs. Coach won't like it if you rip his couch.
Whoops. The new Big West, a big and wild Western taste. Lots of bacon and cheese topped with honey barbecue sauce.
Watch the drapes. You know, it ain't easy being a cowboy.
The new Big West.
Fresh from the kitchen at Hardee's.
Limited time at participating Hardee's restaurants. Comparison based on pre-cooked weight.
Compare and save at Carlson's County Market on East US 2 in Ironwood. This week, fresh center-cut pork steak at 99 cents a pound. In the produce, fresh extra-large slicing tomatoes at only 59 cents a pound. In the grocery aisles at Carlson's, Campbell's tomato or chicken noodle soups are just 39 cents each. Clip the coupon in our flyer and get a dozen of grade A large eggs at 29 cents. It's also a truckload paper sale this week at Carlson's. High-dry paper towels, 2 for $1. Kleenex double bath tissue, a huge 4-roll package at $1.99. That's Carlson's County Market on East US 2 in Ironwood. Compare and save at Carlson's.
How many times do you hear yourself say, I have to lose weight. I'll start my diet tomorrow. I've never weighed this much. You're not alone. Beyond expectations, and Weight Care wants to help you achieve your ideal weight. Weight Care is a dietary supplement guaranteed to help you lose 10 pounds in 7 days. With the help of a pre-flavored beverage and herbal tea blend, plus pills pre-AM and pre-PM, you'll look great and feel great. Call and ask about the discount for the pre-commitment pack. Dial a Slimmer You at 561-5287. That's 561-5287.
19 minutes before 9, we have 29 degrees in downtown Ironwood. Our guest this morning is Sheriff Don Pezzetti, and we're talking snowmobile safety, snowmobile rules to be safe when you snowmobile. Some of the maybe lesser known things, Sheriff, that our listeners may not even be aware of.
Okay. There's a number of violations that are, of course, that we enforce, and operating on a public highway, of course, is one off a trail. If you're not in single file, that's a violation. Posted speed limit, if there's areas with posted speed limits, you're supposed to obey those. Too fast for conditions. If you get caught in a nursery planting area where there's a tree farm or something, that's a violation. A lot of people don't know if you're on the lakes, if there's an ice shanty out there, somebody fishing, you're supposed to stay within or outside of 100 feet of that. You're supposed to be 100 feet out of any slide area in a ski area. Deer season, there's restrictions on hours. A cemetery, running a snowmobile in a cemetery is a violation. Running it on a railroad right away is a violation. Failure to stop and report accidents or stop for a police officer, and of course then we have the drunk driving statute. They're operating under the influence, which is one that we enforce quite stringently. So, you know, people, this information is available at our office. So if anybody has any questions, call us. Come down. We'll show you a copy of the law. Here again, it's a great sport. I don't want to take away from it, but I want the people to know that come into the area that they're going to have to obey the law, and they're going to be out there with the DNR and other units, Michigan State Police, enforcing these laws.
Well, we have over 200 miles of groomed trails in Gogebic County, do we not?
Right, 209 groomed miles we have, which is taken care of by 3 separate snowmobile clubs plus the DNR groomers. So, and they're out there doing a good job. I talked to our officer, D'Incenzo, yesterday, who was out on the trails. He said the trails are in great shape right now, and
my guess is this is probably the best they've been in maybe a number of years.
Right. We have adequate snow, to say the least, and I also have ice on my roof, so which is leaking in.
Oh, okay. We one of the things as we hear about these accidents, and we just had this happen last week,
right,
just west of Wakefield, is crossing the highways. What help?
Well, this last accident in particular shows that this was the snowmobiles had to cross on a dry highway, 5 lanes, and the snowmobilers should remember that they're really going to have to power up when they cross these highways on a dry road. These skis will hold you back, and they got the new carbide, I believe it's called, the ski tips. These things will dig into blacktop. It appears, looking at this last accident, this sled may have not gotten all the way across and may have stalled, and that may be one of the reasons. So they got to remember to power up if you're going to cross a dry road, especially.
Now, I've noticed just driving around the snowmobile trail signs, something that I've had experience with will be, I'm driving on the highway, and there's a group of snowmobiles, say there's about 8 of them. There's room for 3 of them to get across, but the rest of them try to get across. Now, when we're dealing with, sometimes our roads are snow-covered and slippery, I've had the heart pound a couple of times, but am I going to be able to stop in time when they're cutting across in front of me in order to keep up with their group?
Right, and there's no question the motor vehicle has the right of way. There's no question as to who's got the right of way. The signs are put up there to warn us, but this crossing in Wakefield, for instance, by Sunday Lake is one of the better ones, I think. There's good vision both ways. It's a good crossing, and yet we've had this last accident, which is, you know, this gentleman is still in pretty bad shape. So both the drivers of the cars and the drivers of the snowmobiles are just going to have to watch for each other. And hopefully if people try to make this inappropriate crossing, we're able to stop.
Okay, some of the accidents, I know you did quite a bit of research going back. What were, as you said, 23 out of these last 29, that's a pretty high percentage to be alcohol related. But what were some of the circumstances, or how did some of the accidents within the county over the past years, how did they happen?
Well, what we're seeing is that trees are something as a non-giver. I mean, if you take on a tree, you're going to lose. We see a lot of that. The one concern I have, and I travel M28 a lot along that trail that goes toward Berglund, you'll see 8, 10, 15 sleds going with maybe less than 2 or 3 sled lengths between them. And looking at our statistics and the accidents that we've investigated and that happen throughout the UP, a good majority of the people that are getting killed on snowmobiles are being hit by another sled. They're getting bounced off of theirs. the other sled is too close, they're getting run over. This is one safety point I'd like to really emphasize, that if you're out there riding, give some distance between sleds, because this is one of the main killers that we're seeing on the trails, people getting hit by other people.
And of course, with that speed, again, it's just like a car. It takes X amount of feet to be able to stop at X amount of miles, I'm sure.
And of course, you know, you have no protection. I mean, there's no protection on it. So that you have a snowmobile suit on and a helmet. I would just like to go back in time a little bit. Back in February 1st of 1990, I was in a near-fatal snowmobile accident, so I probably know better than anyone what we're talking about here.
How did that, what were the circumstances?
This was down in Wisconsin. This was basically before the days of the trails, and we were out on a Sunday morning down in Wisconsin. I hit a chain across a road, which was, the circumstances were that the plow driver took the chain down, put it back up after plowing. Well, at that low profile in a snowmobile, you're unable to see some of these things. So I took on a chain at about probably 45 miles an hour, which is a lot slower than what they're driving now. And I was very lucky to be here today. So I know what I'm speaking of from experience. So I would warn people to make sure they wear their helmets and so on.
We had machines back in the 70s, in the early 70s, and I remember, it doesn't seem to me I hear as much about this. I remember hearing a lot about people, a lot of fatal accidents with the guy wires. Now, I think that's maybe changed in 20 years because there are not as many as there used to be, right?
Well, I think what's happened is now we have a trail system which is quite safe if it's operated on properly. In the early days, in the 70s, when snowmobiling was at its tops at that time, a lot of driving was done off trails. We were getting people that were being killed by barbed wire out in fields, as an example, barbed wire fences, guidelines on a pole, a power pole or something. These trails don't have those hazards. So if the people stick to the trail, or at least stick in areas they know, I think we'll cut back that tragedy. So.
You had some lists of circumstances that there were accidents, and we're going to take a break, and then we'll take a look at some of those actual accidents and how they happened, okay?
It's fine.
Okay, Sheriff Don Pezzetti, our guest this morning. It is 10 minutes before 9 o'clock, and 29 degrees.
Squeak Service is beyond compare. They add their own special touch to each and every dish. When you want a comfortable atmosphere and fantastic food, dine out at the newly remodeled Squeaks. This weekend, why not treat yourself to one of Squeak's tremendous specials? Feast on Friday's fish fry, baked cod or redfish, jumbo shrimp, even fried appetites. Saturday night, discover irresistible ribs. Half rack, $7.50. Full rack, $11.95. Now serving a Saturday 20-ounce porterhouse steak with mushrooms, served with soup and salad, breadbasket, and choice of potato, only $14.95. Everything's delicious at Squeaks and Pets. Terry and Shirley want to remind you, gas for recreational vehicles now available. Stop by today. At Red's Budget Center, they're practically giving away the cars. The prices are so low it ought to be a crime. Come see the deals for yourself, like an 87 Pontiac Fiero 2-door, white exterior, very sporty, with low miles, just $47.95. 88 Plymouth Reliant LE Auto Air Blue exterior, $39.95. A 1990 Dodge Dynasty 4-door, white exterior, V6, excellent shape, $49.95. 1990 Chevy Lumina White Air Tilt, $49.95. 1989 Plymouth Voyager Gray just arrived, $49.95. The 89 Dodge Grand Caravan SE Dark Blue Top Condition, $49.95. For a great deal, there's only one place, Red's Budget Center.
For the best way to all the best trails, it's the Best Western Powder Mill Inn, located just 1.5 miles north of U.S. Highway 2 on Powderhorn Road between Ironwood and Bessemer, Michigan. Enjoy the beautiful country rooms and suites, indoor pool, spa, and sauna, and excellent dining and cocktails all under one roof. Ski from the door to Big Powderhorn Mountain, or if snowmobiling is your sport, enjoy direct trail access from the inn to the thousands of miles of trails throughout Big Snow Country. Serving breakfast daily from 7 a.m. and featuring a great full-fare menu nightly from 5 p.m. The best of everything awaits at the Best Western Powder Mill Inn. Call 906-932-0800 for reservations and information.
Thanks very much, Gary. 9 before 9, 29 degrees, Sheriff Don Pezzetti, our guest. We're talking snowmobile safety. We're talking the fact that it's a fantastic sport, but there are some things you can pay attention to make it a safer sport, and awareness. of what the rules are and awareness of the conditions and your surrounding areas of speed limits. Is there, Don, okay, if there's nothing posted, we know at the present time it's 55 on a high. Is there like a speed limit that is regular and proper at all?
Not really. That's why we have that statute on too fast.
Okay.
Too fast for conditions. Right now, the Michigan trails have no posted speed limits, so, you know.
That makes it a little tough, too,
Yes,
then.
it does. But, you know, if an accident occurs where speed is involved, we can go to that statute and use that in that effect. But as we look back through the 1993-94 snowmobile season for the UP, we had one in Gogebic County here who hit a tree, and that was a fatal. We had one in Chippewa County. He fell off the machine, was ran over by two other snowmobiles. Ottonogan County, he was thrown from his machine, hit by other snowmobiles. Houghton County hit a bridge abutment. Chippewa County fell off his machine, hit by another machine. That's what I was talking about when I talked about that distance between machines. And we can go all the way back through to 1989 and 90. And what we're seeing in this resume of what's happened here is the trees and the other snowmobiles, and of course speed, and then we get to the alcohol thing. So, you know, it's, as you said earlier, it's a great sport, but we have to use some common sense, and we want to keep them safe here. We don't want to have to be the deliverer of bad news for any family. So when you're in our area, please go by the law, and we'll all have a good time.
Have the machines, I remember I used to think I was going fast if I was going 30 miles an hour back in the days, but then of course I was a family snowmobiler with the kids on the sleigh behind you or one on the machine behind you. Have they gotten, they go 100 miles an hour now.
Right.
Is it too fast?
I think so. I think so. Here again, I don't know how you can govern that, and I don't know how you would convince the manufacturer to lower that back down. I guess my impression of snowmobiling was always to be in an area where you wouldn't generally be, to see things you couldn't see otherwise. I don't know what you can see at 100 miles an hour on a snowmobile, but I don't think it's a lot. So,
right.
So this is just a personal observation. The speed, it's almost at a racing thing. You know, we're talking 100 miles an hour plus, and that there isn't a lot of control at that speed. So.
Right.
I don't think anybody would argue that.
Well, you're here as a reminder, and we're not doing this to be downers at all. That's
Absolutely
just not the purpose. The purpose is to remind you, to make you aware there are things that you need to do when you're snowmobiling to stay safe and have the wonderful time that we know you can. Can I ask you a driving question? A driving in my car question?
Certainly try to help.
Okay, we were talking about making left-hand turns with the snowbanks, and not even only with the snowbanks. Tell me this. Here's what I do. When I make a left-hand turn and I'm going across 5 lanes, now we'll talk about where there are the turning lanes on US 2.
Okay.
I cross the turning lane and I go into the left-hand lane, and then when it's clear, I go into the right-hand lane. Is that right?
That's proper, sure. Because, you know, if you have oncoming traffic and he's in your lane, you certainly don't want to get over to the far right, the slow-moving lane, because you're going to get rear-ended.
This is what we were talking about. It seems to me I have seen so many people pulling out and then going right over to the right. That is improper, right? Correct?
If you have traffic in that lane, you're basically not yielding then, and you're going to get hit. So, you know, you're going to work your way over that right lane. The center lane, or the left-hand lane, let's say, is the passing lane. Slow-moving traffic should keep, and it says keep right except to pass. The 5 lane in itself is a little confusing for many people. Same as a school bus situation. You're required to stop for a school bus on a 5-lane highway because it's not divided. That's a multiple lane. If that was a divided highway and the bus was facing you, you wouldn't have to stop.
Okay.
So people sometimes get mixed up because of that multiple lane situation.
And in our area, if you see flashing lights, you stop, absolutely, because we really don't have. The only place would be that one little tiny stretch by the Cloverleaf, and that's in Wisconsin anyway, isn't it?
Right.
Or a little tiny bit, but I don't think school buses stop over there.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I've been on enough emergency calls to know that a lot of people don't pay much attention to the lights and siren, but And the problem is usually we don't have time to write the ticket because we're in a hurry anyhow.
Okay.
But we will get to meet you later.
Real quick, your opinion on the proposed or being talked about safety belt law change?
Okay, that's the primary enforcement thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess as a police officer, I'd probably go for it. I mean, it would be in our interest. I think it's a good thing. But obviously, from what I'm reading in the paper, the citizens aren't, and I think they're going to let their legislators know that, and I don't think it'll pass. I really don't. That's my opinion.
See, and I guess that I've been a seatbelt wearer since they made them. So, I mean, it's not anything that would ever affect me. I pull out of the driveway, I've got it on. But one of the arguments against it, I heard, was that you have too many other things to do than to be stopping people because you happen to note during the daytime hours that they didn't have a seatbelt on.
Right. See, right, for the people who don't understand the laws, we have to have a different stop. In other words, the stop would have to be speeding or some other thing in order to give you a seatbelt ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And if this new law changes things, then it would be seeing with somebody without a belt would be a reason for a stop. Again, my personal opinion, I think it'd be good, but I don't think it's going to pass.
Okay. Now, I want to thank you for being here because I think that, again, just talking about this, bringing it before the public, why don't you once again give a list of the locations where people can pick up their trail permits?
Okay, the Wakefield Chamber, Davies Motel, Chuck Cycle Shop, Poor Joe's Bar in Bessemer, Secretary of State's office in Bessemer, Ironwood Amico, and I believe the 3 resorts on Lake Ogibic also have them available. I haven't talked to those folks, but I believe they do.
Okay. Now, real quick, 2 things. It is 1996. Is that an election year for you?
Yes, it is. We're gearing up. We're going to go one more time, and
oh, come on, one more time, 2 more times, or
God
3
willing.
more times.
No, I think this will do it, but I'm certainly going to be out there this year, and we're gearing up for the campaign now, so
Okay.
appreciate the thought.
Well, yes, I have a little interest. How about blaze orange and black?
Yes, I've seen those signs. I got a garage full.
Me too. Okay, now, Packer prediction.
Okay. All right, Packers are going to win
By how much?
by 7.
All right.
By
good.
7.
Okay, you and I are in the same ballpark here.
If they do what they did last week, where they were chucking these receivers 5 yards out and putting them on the ground, they're going to win. But trick is Dallas can't get an early lead. Otherwise we're history.
Okay, and but we think the Pack is going to rise to the occasion.
Yes, we do. I'll have on my green.
All right, did you notice? See, Ed just
Yes.
ignored this and ignored this. Thank you so much. It's been fun. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you very much.
Go give it County Sheriff Don Pezzetti, our guest here on a Friday morning show. Time for me to remind you that Avila Home Health Nursing Service is large enough to serve you, small enough to care.